Welcome to Futureproof, where I nerd out about classic sci-fi staples and their real-world counterparts. I'm your host, Michael Swaim, the alternate dimension version of Philip Rivers. I was on death row in my own universe, so I decided to escape and hide out in this one as an internet sketch comedian. God, I miss death row. 3 hot cigarettes a day, a luxurious 18 minutes of yard time, and all the shanks you could eat. But fixing that mistake would require accessing some kind of alternate timeline, an absurd concept that's not at all what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about the hardest of hard science, the multiverse, a dizzying array of infinite alternate timelines where everything that's ever happened, will happen, or could happen is happening right now, to every possible version of everyone and everything everywhere all at once. Keep it simple, stupid. Like any vision of infinity, the concept of a multiverse literally can't be fully comprehended or held in mind. And yet, paradoxically, largely thanks to the MCU, 12-year-olds everywhere are now completely fluent in multiversal structures, rules, premises, and nuances. Way back when, we could only hold a single alternate dimension in our collective pop culture consciousness. Neverland from Peter Pan, Narnia from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Mirror Universe from OG Star Trek. Alternates tended to be evil twins or creeps who look exactly like us but with different facial hair. In fact, most modern depictions of a multiverse are still just the Mirror Universe stacked on top of itself many times. For example, in Spider-Man Far From Home, we find out lots of dimensions have a Spider-Man, all of whom live in New York City and echo many aspects of each other's lives. They aren't totally dissimilar, they're like alts. This implies that the entire history of human mating has remained almost exactly the same, to the point that the same people with the same names married each other and had the same genes and named their kids the same things generation after parallel generation, as if destined to across all of time. Even a cursory understanding of chaos theory tells us that tiny changes made a billion years ago are much more likely to have huge effects in the present. Hell, most versions of the universe might not have an Earth, or life, or the same laws of physics. For a long time, that's where our cultural understanding of alternate dimensions ended. Heaven and hell, Plato's concept of the shadows on the cave wall, Descartes' theory of dualism, separating a material plane from the plane of pure thought, Steve Urkel and Stefan Urkel. Then we started to expand on the idea by telling stories analogous to the multiverse. 1992's Stay Tuned, which you totally forgot has John Ritter and Eugene Levy in it, featured changing channels as a way to conceptualize multiple realities. Last Action Hero pulled the same trick but with movie genres. And we've since got tons of great pop culture examples of simple, practical means used to travel between worlds. In the Myst games, you fall into various books. In the Never-Ending Story, you tumble into a set of ledgers. In Pagemaster, you descend into a gaggle of shit. Wait. Tomes! Simple doors are good enough for Coraline, the Monsters, Inc. monsters, and Jack Skellington, whereas Futurama stuffs all of its alternate universes into boxes. And then the Dark Tower series assigns each one a different floor of the... Nope, I already said tower, that's lazy writing. Fuck me again, wait for it. Spire! Again, in pretty much every single one of these examples, the alternate universes we see are still very closely related to our own. The Spider-Verse, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Jet Li's The One, Coherence, they're all really just the mirror universe or evil twin idea times 10, an efficient way to illuminate different facets of your characters, give the performers a chance to show off their range, and reuse your sets and actors with minimal changes. This ethos carries over to gaming too. Franchises like The Legend of Zelda and Soul Calibur often frame their repetitive nature of their endless parade of sequels as a similar destiny, playing out again and again across a variety of realities, as if there were fundamental building blocks that underlie all creation, and the only thing they have in common is that they all necessitated massive amounts of crunch. In these iterations of the multiverse, reality has many shades, but only one base color. Link battles Ganon. Siegfried is corrupted into Nightmare. Kendrick absolutely humiliates Drake. These things are immutable. Personally, in my headcanon, this happens because in all of these cases, we're only getting exposed to like one chunk or cluster of universes that are all relatively close together. like multiversal neighbors, so they share a bunch of similarities. But that's me doing a lot of work for Phineas and Ferb across the second dimension. Maybe it's just millennial nostalgia, but I feel like the most realistic pop culture depiction of the multiverse of all time is still Dungeons and Dragons, which is split up into a number of planes, each of which is totally different from all the others, inhabited by different unrelated organisms and obeying realm-specific laws of physics and magic. I mean, just this one universe we inhabit is already an unthinkable avalanche of seemingly random nonsense. Why wouldn't the multiverse be too? That show Sliders really got it right, which is a sentence I suspect no one has ever said before in any reality. In ours, though, the idea of a multiverse, or parallel universes we don't have direct perceptual access to, has been a topic of serious scientific debate ever since 1957, when Hugh Everett III advanced the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory as his PhD thesis. As we've covered, so you should really already know about it by now, one aspect of quantum physics is that very small things can maintain superpositions, which means they can literally inhabit multiple states or be in multiple locations at once, and only the act of observation collapses all of those potential realities into a concrete outcome. And thanks to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, even that outcome can't be measured that concretely. It turns out the universe is like your friend who's always changing the details of their stories to suit the mood. Jeremy, I was there. You did not wag your pickle at the cop. Old Huey proposed the idea that all of those extra potential realities still exist somewhere. And what we see as a cloud of probabilities collapsing is actually a cloud of different realities splitting and heading off to their own universes to become different stuff, happening parallelly. That is a word, but don't look it up. In this vision of the universe, everything that could possibly exist does exist in the infinite expanse of quantum reality, including everything you ever imagined or dreamed. That's right. Your teeth fell out and you murdered your high school English teacher, you twisted fuck. Of course, not all scientists agree with Everett that all the superpositions have to necessarily exist somewhere. A new theory was posited this year, with some fancy math attached, that attempts to show that superpositions that don't solidify into reality do continue to exist, but are folded into the underlying space-time of our universe, like oats and raisins into the dough of an inferior cookie. No one really knows for sure yet, but ever since the Big Bang Theory came to prominence, there have been compelling reasons to entertain the idea that our universe might not be alone in the universe. Originally proposed by Belgian physicist and Catholic priest Georges Lemaître, The Big Bang Theory is a popular sitcom about four nerds living in Pasadena. Less importantly, it also developed into the now dominant theory that the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate, which we call the Hubble-Lemaître law. Discrepancies in the predicted rate of that expansion are what caused scientists to fill in the gaps in the universe with what we now call dark matter and dark energy, which is really just scientists speak for stuff that we can't see and don't know what it is yet, but it really seems like something's there. Even more disconcerting, that stuff makes up about 95% of the universe, meaning we barely know squat about dick. Case in point, a new hypothesis is becoming more popular in the face of the dark matter one, which is that there are a bunch of other universes that physically exist outside ours, like a bunch of universes floating around in a big multiverse tub. The idea here is that our universe's speedy expansion could be explained, in theory, by it bumping into and absorbing or eating a bunch of smaller universes over the course of its lifespan. Hey, it's a universe eat universe multiverse out there. Verse accordingly. Or consider superstring theory, a whole branch of physical inquiry trying to explain how the natural forces of the universe arise from little vibrating membranes or strings instead of particles or points. It turns out, math-wise, vibrating strings are more able to account for what we've observed as the fabric of reality. And by the same mathematical token, those strings would need to vibrate not just in 4 dimensions, depth, width, height, and duration, but in 6 other spatial dimensions as well, which I have named after the 6 colors of the rainbow that I still recognize. Indigo knows what it did. These extra dimensions are probably functioning at the quantum level and too small scale for us to observe directly, but they are technically alternate dimensions that technically probably might exist. Currently, everyone is scrambling to perfect an M theory, an all-encompassing version of string theory that incorporates and explains why gravity is a thing. Like, why does stuff attract other stuff? Why is that an inherent quality of mass? What's, like, up with that? Science-wise. Strings, my child. Strings. Making that theory work might actually necessitate an 11th dimension too. But I don't fully understand why or what it is, and I'm sick of saying the word dimension, so guess what? That does it for this episode! Don't forget to toss me a like and scroll down into the comments section to read much more accurate explanations from real scientists eager to correct me, because goddammit, they worked hard to develop a very specific knowledge base and it's their time to shine. I see you, real physicists, taking time to post on a YouTube comedy video. You're doing good, buddy. Not really, though.